Disney has finally proven once and for all that member berries across the world will slurp from that diseased, blue milk spewing tit no matter what the story writing looks like. As long as it allows these grown-ass adults to sit around in their diapers and watch throwbacks to Clone Wars, Rebels, and Big Daddy Skywalker as they creep slower and slower to the cold, dark embrace of death. You can't spell Ahsoka without ass, and that's exactly what this show is. Go fuck yourself, Star Wars nerds! So what exactly is this snooze fest that Disney's trying to wow us with this time? It starts off at a relatively exciting pace. Ahsoka's diving into the mysteries of some underground puzzle cavern that Dave Filoni ripped straight out of Jedi Fallen Order, gets attacked by some hunter bounty droids that are too stupid to use the element of surprise, and somehow barely escapes when their OP self-destruct sequence somehow levels the area around them for miles. Unfortunately, despite that relatively action-packed start, the rest of the show is peppered with terrible pacing, with long stretches where basically nothing's happening. But before the scene with Ahsoka, we're treated to a whole nother scene where some dip-ass New Republic commander decides that it's a good idea to invite two Jedi aboard his ship, despite calling out beforehand that they were probably frauds, and despite the fact that they're carrying a very sensitive prisoner aboard their ship at this very moment. In very predictable fashion, the two mercenaries wipe out everyone on board without even a hint of trouble or effort, free the prisoner with ease, and go about their merry way. They didn't even have to dive down the garbage chute. However, if there's one thing in Dave Filoni's show more grating than the serious lack of judgment and the bizarre decision-making of literally every single character, it's the dialogue. It's insufferable. It's juvenile, it's generic, and it's uninspiring. After a few minutes in, I was basically resigned to the fact that I was going to be wincing every single time someone opened their mouth. Did Dave Filoni program an AI to write all of the dialogue for him while all the real writers are on strike? I don't know, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just asking questions. Just asking questions. We are the Fox News of media journalism. Megyn Kelly right here. But of course, none of the other characters come even close to the stunning personality of Sabine Wren. See, she's this hotshot, girl boss, punk rock commander who plays by her own rules and doesn't take orders from nobody. She shows off her independence and high self-esteem in a lot of super rad and really likable ways, like skipping out on the commemoration. I'm just so excited about this character, I'm tripping over my words. Skipping over the commemoration ceremony for a long-lost friend who sacrificed himself for the cause, all because she's too cool for it. Nearly crashing her speeder into the ship of an officer trying to pull her over, just to show off her cool driving skills. And, if that wasn't cool enough for you, backstabbing Ahsoka when she tries to trust Sabine with a secret special artifact they need to decode together, stealing it for herself in a senseless act of defiance, and then immediately getting dropped on by the bad guys, who promptly stab her through the stomach and take it for themselves. I'm gonna be honest, watching this girl get stabbed through the stomach was the most enjoyable part of that episode. Unfortunately, it was immediately ruined by the start of the second episode, where you learn that somehow this asshole survived. You know, of course she did. She is a girl boss after all. She would live to fight and fuck things up again another day. Making a damn fool out of Ahsoka for putting any trust in her once again by betraying the mission, going out of her way to give the bad guys everything they ever wanted, and risking the fate of the entire galaxy all on the off chance that she might get to see her long-lost crush one more time. Maybe this character wasn't as independent as I thought originally, because for a girl boss, she's very easily manipulated by one grizzled old man. Another underdeveloped character whose motivations throughout the entire show still remain basically a mystery. Sabine's insufferable personality problems and what seems to be some sort of teenage angst left me believing that this character was probably very, very young. But after I googled it, I discovered that this character is fucking 30 years old. Embarrassing. I'm sure any Mandalorians watching this shit show are feeling some secondhand embarrassment themselves. Her arrogance makes her character so aggravating and unlikable, she's almost surpassed Anakin Skywalker in that regard, which is a very high bar to reach. For some reason, a lot of people seem to have a really hard time understanding the difference between a confident character and an unbearable asshole. Well, Sabine might suck, and the dialogue sounds like nails on chalkboard, but at least the story is interesting enough to distract from all that, right? Right? Incorrect. The entire premise of the show is ripped straight from The Force Awakens of all places, with that stupid quest to find the map to find Luke Skywalker. Except instead of looking for a lonely old grizzled Luke, we're looking for that kid who's like the protagonist of that dumb Rebels cartoon show for kids that I couldn't bear to get through. I got through more of it than I thought I would, though. Also, Grand Admiral Thrawn, I guess. Apparently, the rescue of one single person on either side is enough to tip the entire scale of galactic conflict. I know these characters are often portrayed as all-powerful demigods or, super brilliant tacticians, but when your premise of the show is that the fate of the galaxy all rests on finding one super smart general or one super dorky Jedi kid, the storytelling starts to feel a little bit juvenile. Then there's Ahsoka herself. Now, I don't hate the character. She is very confident in herself, but in a much more calm, collected, and less abrasive way than Sabine. So actual confidence. And she is genuinely likable. The only problem is that her entire personality can basically be described as her crossing her arms and looking serenely at the person she's talking to. Apparently, people wrote entire articles bickering back and forth about the crossed arms thing, which is probably the funniest part about it if you want my opinion, but we'll save that entertainment for a little bit later. The most emotional moment that Ahsoka seems to have is when she loses a fight, falls into a coma, and finds herself in the kooky, nebulous World Between Worlds from that dumb Rebel show, which basically serves as a way for story writers to break the rules of time and space, and to go back to whatever time period they want to. In this world, Ahsoka meets Anakin, her old master, and is told that she has to fight for her life, which apparently means dueling him in this nebulous space world. Their duel is, of course, interrupted by obligatory flashbacks to live-action scenes of the Clone Wars, leaving all the 30-year-old Clone Wars nerds creaming their Star Wars undies every single time that Captain Rex comes in and says a line, or Anakin comes trotting out wearing a special Clone Wars outfit. Ooh, he's got the shoulder guard. Look at him go. Oh my god, he called her the nickname, guys. Oh my god, it's the scene of their first battle, guys. Clones! Ooh, Dave Filoni's jingling his keys in front of me. Ooh, shiny. It's at this point that Ahsoka gets Did I really write gets forced through a forced? There's a lot of force going on here. I mean, it is Star Wars after all. It's at this point that Ahsoka gets forced through what feels like an unearned moral dilemma, where suddenly, out of nowhere, with no build-up during the earlier parts of the show, she's suddenly dealing with all this guilt from soldiers that she gave orders to who died on her watch like decades and decades ago during the Clone Wars, and struggles with not wanting to fight anymore. Apparently, she has to overcome this moral dilemma, overcome her guilt, and choose to live by, I guess, continuing to swing her lightsaber at Anakin or something? I don't know. The moment could have been really powerful if it had been approached in a different way, but they just kind of slapped it in there and forced it in randomly with no build-up or lead-up to it at all, just so that they could squeak in a scene with Hayden Christensen and everyone could go wild.
I'm stressing.
If they had actually taken the time to set this scene up and maybe had a bit of a lead up to this building guilt and building moral conflict before this moment happened, it could have paid off. It's not like she had spent the earlier parts of the show ruminating over Anakin's fall or ruminating on the people who died on her watch. It was all calm confidence and folded arms for the entire thing up until she got into one measly coma. Instead, they shove it in haphazardly, get their obligatory Christian Hayden appearance, and pretend to have Ahsoka overcome a personal moral dilemma without actually ever taking the time to develop her character. But wait, what's this? Is that the outline of Vader I see flashing in between the thunderstorm? Did his lightsaber just turn red?
Red. That's red. I Vadered. He Vadered.
Oh my god, guys. He Vadered, guys. He totally Vadered. I've never seen something like this in a Star Wars show before. Clearly, we're breaking new ground and trying new things. Now, let me take a step back and go against the spirit of the totally uninformed media show for just 1 second. I may be contractually barred from saying anything positive about this show, but I have to admit, there were definitely parts during the Anakin Vader fight scene that got me excited. Even my stony heart felt a little twinge of excitement watching Dark Anakin turn on Ahsoka and start aggressively knocking her around like an orange bowling pin. The flashes of Vader's outline, mixing the two voices, the breathing. Obviously, there was stuff about this scene that was well executed. But even as I was enjoying this scene, I couldn't escape the nagging feeling in the back of my head that this scene could have been prepared better and treated with more love. Set up in a way that would have been more meaningful. But hey, I can sit back, turn off my brain, and soak in the pretty flashing light show as good as anyone, so who cares, I guess. Now, despite the show's glaring writing problems and uninteresting plot, snooze, there is an unending army of undying Disney shills. Clearly all paid actors with their pockets personally lined by the mouse himself, who will not let any of the haters ruin their sacred Star Wars shows. When people started making fun of the fact that all of the promotional material for the show seemed to just show Ahsoka crossing her arms in every single image, apparently Dave Filoni beat it into the actor's head that crossing her arms is all Ahsoka is allowed to do. Die-hard Clone Wars historians set out to show all the nitpickers and the haters just how little they know about Ahsoka and Star Wars itself. Here's an article by one of those Clone Wars scholars now, titled, "People are already complaining about Ahsoka for this ridiculous reason." This show, which had been hyped up by fans ever since it was confirmed, had the unique chance to be a crowd pleaser, with audiences generally liking Ahsoka and wanting to see more of her adventures. However, as always with this franchise, it was too good to be true. On Twitter, I guess it's now X, a post highlighting an exclusive image from Ahsoka went viral for all the wrong reasons after it turned into a battleground for people debating Dawson's pose, of all things. Despite giving us a new glimpse at live-action Hera Syndulla, another character I don't like, by the way. Anyway, some nitpickers ignored this in favor of bashing Ahsoka's stern facial expression and crossed arms, something users accused her of doing in nearly every promotional image released so far. I love how the example they use of someone doing that is just some random Twitter who's boobing out in their profile picture. I'm actually opening that user's profile right now out of curiosity, and oh god, it's an OnlyFans profile. Well, oh wow, she speaks French too. Romantic. Well, at least I hope this article gave her some good traction in business. Power to her, I guess. Landwehr, the writer of the article, provided numerous examples of heretics who dared to mock the inspirational and trademark pose of Ahsoka crossing her arms. One user who caught Landwehr's ire in particular is this one. This enraged user let their not safe for work thoughts known, leaving a scathing R-rated criticism of how Ahsoka makes the same expression and same pose, while also snapping at fans of the Clone Wars for praising her live-action portrayal. Then from user Fiona, every promo still with Ahsoka in it features her making the same expression with the same pose, but the Clone Wars nerds will dick ride it and treat the show like the second coming of Christ. Damn, even I think that's harsh. Maybe Fiona should be writing this show for me. She would fit right into the Tums family. Anyway, Landwehr writes, in response, some fans of the Clone Wars countered users' concerns with receipts, reminding skeptics that reminding skeptics that having her arms crossed is simply a part of Ahsoka's signature pose. Finally, this fan set the record straight on haters' reactions to Ahsoka's pose. Then it shows some Twitter user named Azul Crazed Nightwing fan, probably not the only thing he's a crazed fan of, schooling the haters with this tweet. If you actually watch the Clone Wars and Rebels, you'd know that her natural pose is her crossing her arms. She's done it ever since season 1 of Clone Wars, so stop grasping for anything just to hate on something, guys. Other people just included a bunch of frames of random times Ahsoka crossed her arms in the Clone Wars, Rebels, and her appearances in Mandalorian. Clearly, this is the future Star Wars fans want. They want us all walking around like this until the next show comes around. They will not rest until every live-action Star Wars has every actor in every scene walking around like this. They're gonna be flying the ship with their elbows. They're gonna be fighting like this. Better sharpen the bows before combat. Better sharpen those bows. We're gonna be fighting like this from now on. That's the way combat works now. I don't know what's most amusing about this whole situation. The fact that early critics hyper-fixated on this one detail out of all the flaws that the show has, or the fact that defenders of the show wrote whole articles about it. Apparently it was actually directing genius on Dave Filoni's part.
Dave Filoni, you utter genius.
Now, I don't know how convincing it is to me to take a handful of random stills from a very long cartoon series and showing times when Ahsoka happened to be crossing her arms, but I also know that I watched the show, at least parts of it, and I don't remember noticing how often Ahsoka crossed her arms in it, but I noticed it in the show. At the end of the day, if people are noticing it, isn't that a sign that maybe you're exaggerating it a little too much? I could go back and rewatch the cartoons to see if my impression of the situation is correct. But honestly, it's a kid's show, and I don't want to. And I'm not going to sully the good name of the totally uninformed media show by actually researching something. The one thing that Landward does correctly point out is that a lot of people are very quick to blame the actors, when really the people that they should be going after are the producers and the writers. Yeah, go get him, guys. Go get Filoni. There he is. Go get him. However, that article aside, the silliest rationalizations for Ahsoka constantly crossing her arms have to go to the Reddit users on r/Star Wars who were responding to a post where one user asked, "Why is Ahsoka crossing her arms all the time?" Here's what some users had to say. To show through body language that she's closed herself off emotionally. I don't get the obsession with this. It's a defensive stance. Right now, Ahsoka has put up big emotional barriers, probably because she's had to deal with a lot of trauma. Wow, it sure was a mistake teaching anyone in my generation psych or therapy terms. People are truly grasping at straws and displaying their lack of emotional intelligence just to hate on the show. Ahsoka is crossing her arms to show she's emotionally closed off. A lot of similar answers here. Ahsoka not smiling and doing backflips 24/7 is not bad writing. If you had been through what she has been through, then you wouldn't be smiling and doing backflips 24/7 either. Why isn't Ahsoka doing backflips 24/7? Hey Dawson, can you do a backflip? Hey Dave Filoni, can you do a backflip? I can't do a backflip. Apparently Anakin didn't teach her everything we know. The more you learn. While the show looks pretty, and while watching Ahsoka swing around her twin sabers can at least be mildly entertaining, is this show actually any good? Incorrect. This show only exists so that baby nerd Clone Wars fans and die-hard Rebel shill can all dribble and drool over vague allusions and references to their favorite cartoon show while watching a few explosions in between. If you want to watch a really good Star Wars show, check out Andor instead. I give this show 2 head tails down. But now that we're done crushing the positivity, optimism, and pro-Disney propaganda of 30-year-old memberberries and children who watch cartoons, let's look at some reviews from other people, starting with a review from the other side of the aisle. 5 stars. Absolutely phenomenal TV show. I love everything about it. 46 years of Star Wars has culminated into this TV show, and it's everything I've ever wanted. Oh, Jesus, 46 years. A New Hope, Jar Jar Binks, George Lucas laid it all out on purpose to lead up to this show, people. Let's go. Thank you to everyone who contributed to this masterpiece. Love it. From the way Dawson dives into Ahsoka's character as if she was her. Oh, you mean like an actor? To Bordizzo's punk rock attitude that fits Sabine perfectly. Jesus. Punk rock or not, I am mystified as to how anyone could have found that character's personality likable in any way. Maybe I'm just too old and not hip enough, but there's a line between being independent and being punk rock, and being rebellious, and just being immature. But I digress. To Tennant's wisdom and comedy making Hu Yang my favorite droid. Personally, I prefer the one from Rogue One. I like that droid. He's very sassy. To Hayden bringing the best of Anakin and Darth Vader in groundbreaking performance. Not to mention Winstead Hera being the best girl boss. Jesus Christ. The best girl boss I've ever seen. I think she hit basically every main character in this one. Is this a paid review? I've never been as excited about Star Wars as I am with this show. Truly spoken like someone who has not seen Andor. As far as Hera being a girl boss, I was I just rolled my eyes during the entire scene where she had to argue with her higher-ups and the generals about why she was defying orders, and Leia saved her at the last second. It was just one of the most vapid and pointless arguments that ever happened in the show. I don't know why that was there. I'm a rebel at heart. I do what I do to save my friends. I did what I thought was right. The one thing I don't like about some of the positive reviews is that a lot of them say, well, you gotta watch Clone Wars, man. You gotta watch Clone Wars and Rebels, man. Then you'll enjoy it. Well, first of all, if you have to watch another show to enjoy one show, then the show's just not that good. Also, didn't change too much for me, honestly. I would have had the same experience if I didn't watch either of those shows. Now that we've heard from some of the positive reviewers, let's go to some of the negative reviews. Now, normally I wouldn't explain the joke, but I specifically chose this person's review because I thought they were unhinged. I am not at all condoning this person or the things that they say. I just want to make that very clear before I read this. To be clear, this person is unhinged and that's why we're reading it. I promise again to never explain the joke on the show. This user wrote, only on the first episode, and the writing is so bad, I couldn't finish the first episode. This was written for 10-year-old narcissists who know absolutely nothing about Star Wars. The disobedient white girl does things her way with no consequences. Why are we focusing on the race of Sabine? Anyway, because apparently white folks won't watch a show where they get punished by a black woman. Ahsoka is a pushover. I'm sorry, is Ahsoka a black woman? I don't think that counts. They're saying this, by the way, because if you didn't know, because you wouldn't, the actor for Ahsoka is black. So I guess they're upset that the black actor for Ahsoka never has a scene where she punishes the white girl Sabine for disobeying order. There's a lot to unpack here. The main takeaway is this review is fucking weird. It's very interesting that despite the fact that the actor is covered head to toe in costume and makeup and orange paint, we're still really hyperfixating on the race of the character and of Sabine. So the white girl runs away again with a dumb smirk on her face for some reason. And of course she has her puzzle-solving epiphany happen in her isolated dark apartment rather than in the well-lit mobile spaceship with a robot and Jedi who has already been established as a puzzle-solving genius. Hey, well, I played Jedi Fallen Order, so I myself am also a bit of a puzzle-solving genius myself. Even worse, Sabine apparently has no force powers, so she's written to be the everyday American white girl the audience can relate to. We're really hyperfixated on Sabine being white in this review. This show is garbage, but white folks will love it. So disappointing. Ahsoka was my favorite Clone Wars character. Disney, you suck. Well, this person is a little fucking weird. This is like the inverse of the weird, racist, reactionary white Star Wars nerds who hated all of this Disney Star Wars movies because they had too many, like, lead women or lead minority roles. Oh, speaking of those guys, here's a review from one of them right now. My cat was super offended that you didn't use a cat to play a cat. I think this is like a backhanded swipe at, people complaining about whitewashing roles or something, but that's let's ignore that for now. If you love the new woke Disney Star Wars, then this is for you. I'm no opposed to women in lead roles, but just maybe you could slip a lead dude in somewhere. Now, if you thought those last couple reviewers might have been biased by a little bit of bigotry, boy do I have the review for you. Scholar B-Rad Brad writes to us, saying, 1 star. This is not Star Wars. Disney should change title to Woke Wars or Gay Wars. I mean, I'm sure there would be like an LGBT audience that would want to see like a Gay Wars. They should make that parody right away. If Disney wants the money, I'm sure they could get right on that. This is a left-wing biased, feminism, lesbian biased, fantasy, all the words I don't like in one sentence, ideology, yet again pushed onto us by Disney. I'm surprised he didn't work like at least 3 more adjectives into that sentence. The acting, poor. The story, boring. Too busy pushing gay agendas. Where was the gay agenda in Ahsoka again? Did I blink and miss the Sabine Ahsoka makeout session? That must have been what happened. I mean, for all I know, maybe it was 2 of the hermit crab guys who were gay. The blue milk is turning the frickin' crabs gay. Directing, poor. The main actor is a one-dimensional actor, boring and can't act. Another gay left-wing biased ideology pushed onto the masses by Disney. With all Disney movies flopping, and some of the worst and least watched TV shows and movies, you would think Disney has learnt its lesson to stop pushing gay. They're really focused on the gay thing. I think they might have a pathology or something. The gay ideology, race swapping, etc. onto the masses in our Wait, which one was the race swap? Oh, I think they're mad about the Little Mermaid, not anything in Star Wars. I was about to say, oh, you know what they're mad about? They're mad that Sabine is played by a black actor and not an orange actor. That's what they're really mad about. They're buddy with the other reviewer from before. 38 people found this helpful. That's depressing. Alright. So, the last few reviewers were absolutely vile. So, to wash the taste out of our mouth and cleanse our palate a little bit, let's look to another negative review for this show from a scholar who's maybe not a complete hate-filled lunatic. This user writes, 1 star. For this show to work, you need to shut off your brain. The following has to be true. A. Luke, Han, Leia, and Chewie are in Cancun sipping margaritas. Otherwise, our heroes in their prime would go and uncover this plot. They are. I think that was a typo. B. Ahsoka is not a main character, yet she's treated like a chosen one. I didn't see that happen, but okay. C. If you are an old school fan, prepare to have Filoni disrespect you. Disrespect? Jason makes an appearance, but is not Jason Solo. Jason is now a nobody. Wait, was Jason Solo in this show? Is that true? I have a hard time believing that. That kind of goes against the whole fucking Han, Leia, Ben Solo canon. Honest, I would love for Jason Solo to come into, the story. And to be the new canon. I love that character, but I think this person might be misreading things here. Here's another reviewer with some very strong opinions on the show Ahsoka, among other things. 1 star. The lamest Star Wars ever. Was this all filmed at Starbucks? What? First Star Wars I've ever had to skip scenes through. Sabine and her dumb cat are really lame. The action and emotion are so artificial, like everyone at Starbucks. What are we talking about Starbucks for? None of this feels authentic, just so weak. Fire everyone and make it cool. 5 people found this helpful. And finally, 1 star. This show is a lifeless husk of everything that came before it. Ahsoka is now a shadow of what she used to be. Instead of being full of light and energy, she's a bland character with no urgency. Sabine, formerly quick-witted and energetic, now lifeless and boring. I don't know if the problem with Sabine is that she's lifeless and boring. You know what? At this point, lifeless and boring would be an improvement to her character. Lightsabers, formerly known as the most deadly weapons, are now the equivalent of pool noodles. I guess Qui-Gon Jinn just didn't feel like living anymore. I guess Qui-Gon Jinn just didn't feel like living anymore, because from what is clearly shown, being impaled by lightsabers is an injury you could just walk out of in a day. Alright, one more and I swear I'm done. This one star is for Chopper. He was the only decent thing about the first 2 episodes. And then they write a whole bunch of shit. I feel like I just stumbled onto my younger cousin's review of this show. Alright, I'd like to thank you for this little experiment on the channel Zaler Avon. For the first and probably the final installment of the totally uninformed media show, because we are canceled. I was gonna use the lapel mic, but I put one on and it sounded like shit. So I don't know what to do with myself now. I'd like to thank everyone, the Academy, the studio, for filming this episode. By the way, the intro was totally plagiarized, as was the premise for the entire show. I hope the antacid company Tums doesn't sue me for naming the show the T.U.G.S show, but all things considered, maybe I could convince them to be a sponsor, because after watching this show, you're gonna need a few of these. Goodbye and good night. Dave Filoni? More like Dave Bologna. Hey guys, thank you for watching that wonderful video. Please support me by subscribing, smashing that like button, and commenting down below all of your favorite games so that I can learn more about my lovely viewers. Thank you, and have a good rest of your day.